So first of all, welcome to Canadian Firearm Noob. I want to wish all of you a happy new year, a happy 2025. May your year be full of health, happiness, joy, and honestly, a lot of beautiful adventures. One of the things is no matter which side of which side of this issue we're on, it's important to remember that we're all human beings and we deserve to treat each other like human beings, no matter which religion, what confession you're part of, or what faith you believe in. A big part of who we are as human beings come with respect for each other and what we're going to do going into this new year to make sure that we fulfill those basic human tenets of how we are with each other. Now, let's come to the reason why we're here tonight. It's to give an update a little bit on everything we've been hearing about gun control and what we've seen as updates on the OIC and things we've been hearing tonight about changes in classification and other ways that we're going to see these new rules come into play. Now, there's another YouTuber that needs to be mentioned who was a legal scholar on this issue that deserves all the credit, and I will be linking to him in the description for you to see his video. But also, I wanted to discuss this and discuss a little bit what we're seeing going forward in regards to this issue. So the first thing we're going to see here is that we're talking about what the Trudeau government is doing to change the parameters of this implementation. We're getting more and more details about this buyback. We're seeing that the tone is very aggressive. The tone is punitive. This is going to be sort of deployed as in a form of a punitive fashion. They didn't say that the buyback will be generous. They're saying it's fair, but we understand that what they're saying is that we shouldn't be looking at any form of realistic compensation if this happens, if it even gets implemented, because there is very likely going to be, unless the parliament is prorogued, we're going to see an election. Well, we think we're going to see an election, but that's part of what we're hearing on that front. The other thing we're hearing is that there is a lot of, well, to put it mildly, a lot of cynicism around it, and we're right to be cynical about it because there's 3 points that keep coming up, and the first is the way that this is being done. And I'm going to, no matter which side of the issue you are, I'm going to explain it to you in 2 points, which I think are going to very much make you understand the way the Liberal government is putting this forward. Now, forget firearms. Let's ignore. Let's for a moment say that this is not a firearm ban. Let's call it an SUV ban. Well, government decides one day and that maybe you have a right to a car, maybe not. There's public transportation. You have someone in your family with a disability. You can call a cab with a disability access, with specialized access. Imagine that the government decides that you have no right to an SUV for reasons that they enunciate, whether it's that despite developments in motorization, that the government is saying that they still pollute too much, that they're dangerous, especially in urban environments, and that when it comes down to it, there is no reason anyone would need an SUV. Now, if what I'm saying to you right now sounds familiar or sounds like something you've heard of before, it's because in a lot of European cities, there are regulations for access to heavy vehicles, to access the downtown cores. There is a lot either of access fees to access the downtown core or limitations on the type of vehicles that can access it. So they'll stop SUVs and others. Now, um, there is an important aspect to this because the way the government is doing this is not by bringing it to a debate or a discussion on it. No, the way the SUV ban would be implemented in the case that I'm giving you, because let's remember, putting aside the idea of firearms for now, is that they are changing or they are supplementing some bureaucratic rules that are either saying that SUVs should never have been legal in the first place. This is what's going on right now. We're January 1st, 2025, this is what we're hearing right now about possible reclassification, that you are never supposed to be able to own an SUV in the first place, and that this new change in the way it's being implemented means that you might not be eligible for a buyback, or you could immediately, unless you accept to surrender your SUV to your MOT or to the SAQ here in Quebec, would be made liable to have done a crime from owning this SUV. Remember, this is done without any consultation. At no point, if you look at the Liberal agenda going into the election 4 years, or when we had our last federal election, was there any discussion of any of this being done? This is being done frivolously in the guise of public safety, but it's actually a lot more cynical than that. There is a reason why the Liberal government is doing this, and I'm going to bring it up. Now, remember, we're still talking about, let's come back to the SUV example. The way they are presenting this is for environmental purposes, for safety purposes, exactly some of the issues that we're hearing when it comes to firearms because of safety. And there shouldn't be any of these in the urban centers, firearms in urban centers, etc. I know I changed. You might say, Oren, there is no way that an SUV has the same level of potential lethality as a semi-automatic rifle. And if not for what happened last night in New Orleans and what has happened in the past with these ramming incidents in France and in New Orleans last night, do you understand that it's a false argument about public safety? Now, let's come back to what we're talking about here, about the government changing an order in council or the way a law is implemented to make sure that something that ideologically they disagree with is banned. Now, we said firearms to SUVs. But let's say you're on the other side of the political spectrum, and imagine if a conservative government was putting in place these same guidelines to maybe ban the medication or hormonal treatment therapy for trans youth, or even worse, genetic therapy that is done from stem cells. We know that ideologically in the States, for example, there are very severe limitations when it comes to what you're able to treat with stem cells. But imagine if a conservative government were to use the same tools, because we're talking about putting a precedent in here. This is about a precedent, setting a precedent. A precedent. Sorry. Imagine using the same precedent that the Trudeau government used to ban these therapies that could be important to you, that could save someone that you know. And that is the problem here, is the precedent that is being set in taking things away from you. And that's why you have to speak up about it. Now imagine even worse, that conservative government is so serious about taking those things away that they are willing to put billions of dollars from the treasury to take these medications out of hospitals and out of your hands. Imagine how that would make you feel on the other side of the spectrum if this is the way we implement policy in Canada from now on. And that's why it's wrong. Has nothing to do with firearms. You can agree on firearm gun control, you can disagree on it. It's the way we practice politics in this country, especially if we go off, if we go off course, like what we've seen with the Trudeau government and this issue. They never talked about it on what they said they were going to run on 4 years ago. This is brand new. So there has to be a debate. Only if the debate is there can we agree on the way this is done. If not, it's punitively implemented. And you wouldn't accept this for anything they would take away from you. And that's why the difference is only in degree here in the way this is being done. You might tell me again, what's the difference between stem cell therapy? Well, for some religious people, stem cell therapy is murder, is a question of public safety. It really is. It's in their agenda. And that's why you don't want these things to be done the way they're being done. Now, why is this the way it is? Why are we dealing with this? Why are we waking up in 2025 discussing about disarming Canadians? There's over 2 million Canadians that are looking to be probably disarmed on the short term or long term here. But there's also an argument being made at the military being disarmed at the same time. Between taking away firearms from law abiding citizens in Canada, whether you use them for hunting, sporting, no matter what you use them for, the way our military is being, to be honest, dissolved. It is being dissolved. I was reading an incredible article that I will try to link up in the comments here in the I think it was in the Globe and Mail, but talking about, and this is, I want you to think about it, talking about our transition from the F-18 to the F-35 in Canada, and how from morale to personnel to the way the Canadian military is seeing itself being gutted, that by the time the F-35 arrives in 2026 and we phase out the F-18 in 2032, that we may not have, and remember the world we're living in, the world we're living in, we may not have, and I'm going to give you examples of this, we may not have the human or technological infrastructure to sustain an actual air force in this country. In a world where you're seeing what's going on with Iran and its proxies, where you're seeing what's happening with China and Taiwan, when you see what's going on in the rest of the world with North Korea and Japan and South Korea, when you see the kind of world we're living in, where you need to make sure that you have, whether it's a military or in the case where your military fails, a population like we're seeing in Ukraine. Hey, I didn't bring up Ukraine. In Ukraine right now, where with the draft age being heightened more and more so that they can get more soldiers on the battlefield. When you see everything that's going on in the world, imagine seeing that and saying that the best possibility is to actually disarm your population, weaken your military. If you're a conspiracy theorist or someone who believes in those things, you might see an agenda behind that. My argument to you is the following: no matter what you believe, it comes down to the basic tenets of the democratic process we've all agreed to. And those tenets are that there is a debate and discussion on everything we implement in this country. It's the reason why the Harper government, one of the longest lasting federal governments, didn't turn around and ban gay marriage. Right? They didn't, because there was a national debate, and they didn't do anything to abortion either, because we know that there is a national debate that is to be respected in this country. That if you don't respect it, then you break your people's trust in the democratic process. And these are the dangers that as Canadians we're approaching, that we have to avoid at all costs. Our vote matters, and a vote counts in this country. And we have to remember to vote, to make sure that we have the proper documentation, the proper signups to be able to vote. We have to do it. If an election happens, that's great. If it doesn't, we know what to expect. But we have to make sure that when the time comes, that your vote counts. So I'm going to leave you on these notes while wishing you. I know that it's a bit of a grim outlook on this vlog, but I want to remind you the importance of your voice, and to keep your voice rational, collected, to share things in a way where people feel that they can relate to you, to do it from the ground up. That's what grassroots movements are so important, but to do it with respect and understanding. Like and subscribe if you like this video. It helps me get this message to more people, and that's important. I want more people to see this. But most importantly, take care of each other. It's a new year, new opportunity. The most important message is that I want you, if you're listening to this, I want you to prosper. I want your family to have everything it needs because we live in difficult times with inflation. Put those priorities in front to make sure that you guys have everything you need. And I'll be reading you guys and answering in the comment. Thanks. And again, have a wonderful start to 2025. May it be a year where your voice, where our voices get heard, and most importantly, that they get heard in a way that makes a difference. Thanks again. Have a wonderful evening.